that girl's a witch right there, and she's dancing with the devil. You better watch out, and the devil gonna get you. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mystic Rebels podcast. What? My name is Ashley. I teach spiritual development, psychic awareness, tarot, herbalism, esoteric mysticism, everything in the metaphysical realm. That is my jam. And I am here today to talk to you about identity and how we can attach to certain aspects of ourselves which truly aren't authentic in search of that identity. No, I am not a witch, but disclaimer, this podcast is not anti-witch. As a matter of fact, we're going to spread some love for the witches of the world, okay? My expression of magic was not fully realized until much later in life, but I knew there was something to it. I knew there was something. I saw things as a little girl. I heard things. I got into tarot very early. I got into reading Silver Ravenwolf and, all these amazing writers and read all these books because I was just consuming what felt like something was feeding my soul. There was something in here that belonged to my essence, is the best way for me to describe it. And very early on, I got branded as a witch. And this was before The Craft came out. And then after The Craft came out, I was like, yeah, I'm a witch. Sure, I'm a witch, but I'm a good witch. And I was just like, witch, please. And then there was Practical Magic, which is still one of my all-time favorite movies because it's about sisters. And at the time, my sister and I loved that movie. And I'm still connected to her in the ethereal realm because of that movie. Whenever I see it, I'm just like, oh, sissy. And anything witcheroo, I love witches. On my desk, I have these gorgeous ladies. Witches! Aren't they cute? I love it. All three of them are in the crone stage of femininity, which I think is so underappreciated, especially the wisdom of these ladies. It's they are aligning with their higher purpose, aligning with their true self, and going inward. And I was just like, it's a Halloween decoration that I have. Most Halloween decorations, I'm like, well, that's just decoration. That just belongs in my house. It's just going to be there. I have a witchy hat over there that holds a candle in it. And I want art in my office of witches, little girl witches. I've written a children's book about a little witch who's based on me in terms of connection to nature and so much more. I love witches, but I'm not a witch. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for the longest time, I thought I was, because I thought in order to connect to magic, in order to feel powerful, you had to be some sort of practitioner of magic. And in that, you were a witch or a wizard or, a priestess of some kind. And it was after the worst experience in my witchy path that I had, a friend of mine, her parents were super witchy with it, and we found this old book on the shelf. And it was kind of like out of a horror movie where, unassuming teenage girls find ancient text on shelf, opens up the book without really understanding the practice. And what could go wrong? A lot. We found something that she said was supposed to call our spirit guides. Do yourselves a favor. Disclaimer. Don't do this unless you are... just don't do this. Don't do this at all. I actually help people facilitate meeting their spirit guides now as a service with my spiritual awakening because of this horrific experience. Essentially, we did hers and nothing happened, which was the best part for her. And then we did mine and something happened. I saw a hooded figure, which should have told you something, with no face, like black face, and this darkened hooded figure. And I was like, Oh, and we blew out the candles, closed the circle because we knew that stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go home. I don't know what just happened. And she's like, okay, it's probably best. And I felt something breathing on my neck is the best way to describe it. Just like on my way home in the car, all the way to my front door where I had a sigil. And as soon as I went inside my house, I felt fine. But I felt eyes on me when I looked out the front window or any of the windows, closed all the curtains. And as soon as I would leave for several weeks until I spoke with an elder who taught me how to cleanse myself of that energy and shield myself, because there was no information about, hey, before you do this, make sure you're shielded, protected, grounded, understand what you're doing, and da-da-da. No, and that should be literally in front of every spell. But we'll get into that in terms of how I use spell work now. It's not somebody else's spell. It's not a spell out of a book, which you can do, but that's not authentic magic. And I was like, okay, I cleansed, I thanked the elder. She ran a shop in Santa Rosa at the time, and I was able to feel safe again, but there was something very traumatizing about that experience. And I was like, okay, I'm not supposed to be a part of this. This stuff is too much. I'm just inviting the darkness in. Maybe they're right. I'm inviting the devil to my table. And at that time, I believed in the devil. I don't believe in the devil now. Because it is a Christian construct, and I'm not Christian. So, although I love Christ consciousness and the messages of the true Christ, but we can get into that in another podcast. And so I shelved everything in my life to the outer world. Everything I practiced was only in my house, and it was only tarot. I stopped doing spell work. I didn't know the word manifestation, but I sort of shelved any power that I had and only let people who I was really close with know I did tarot. And that was only in high school. After high school, that was my closeted gift. No one knew about that unless they came to my house and they saw my room. So really close friends. Or I got drunk and I was like helping people without cards, because I can do that too. But what I discovered was it's not something that you can suppress. You cannot suppress your magic, because that is the systemic issue that we see in this country and all over this world. Any place where you're taught that you're just a body and life is supposed to be hard and, grind, girl, grind, boss, bitch, brr, that's the lifestyle that works against our energy when we're supposed to be flowing into experience and simultaneously aligning and directing energy, which we can do because we are magical freaking beings. In case you didn't know this, you are a spiritual being having a human experience, and pretty much everything we've been taught about humanity is a lie, okay? But it's awakening to that truth that I do have power, and I don't have to feed into this idea that I have to fit in this little box that society has put me in, and that I have put myself in based on giving into the expectation of society. Weird is one of my favorite words because it speaks, in terms of the origin of it, it speaks to going towards your destiny. And that's your true authenticity. I'm a weirdo. I may not be a witch, but I'm a weirdo. And I love witchy ways. I still love spells, and I still read about witchcraft. I'm reading Green Witchcraft, which is an amazing book. But again, I don't align with everything in it. And I didn't discover why until I realized that I had to create my own authentic spiritual experience. I had to create my own practice. Every time I tried to do someone else's practice, or even on YouTube, you have so many wonderful practitioners of magic and spiritual truth that are sharing what they do. And they're saying, this is what you should do, or, this is what would be right. there's no such thing as a right way to practice your magic. It is authentic to you. And it goes to everything in terms of tarot, in terms of spell work, in terms of manifestations, rituals. We just did a full moon ritual in Circle, and it was awesome. And one of the things I told the women and the people who were part of this ceremony early on was, I'm going to share this ritual with you. This is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm using in terms of correspondence items and, herbs and all this other stuff. But here's what you got to know. Your character, the person that you are, comes out in your magic. Mama's a little extra. So I've got a lot of stuff that's going into this ritual because it's just setting the stage for what's real and connects me to my magic. I look at the ritual and I'm like, damn, that's hot. That's magic right there. That's my magic. And, we had someone who was like, I just have a candle. Totally fine. There is no wrong way, with exception of the wrong stuff, like I experienced early on in my life, the not safe stuff, to practice your magic. And your magic is authentic to what feels right to you. My husband has had a really hard time in the spiritual community because people keep telling him, well, you're not very spiritual. You're not very spiritual. That's not a very spiritual thing to say. And I've told him many times, those people, bless them, don't know what that word means. What it really means, the essence of spirituality, is the individual expression of our spirit, which can only be described by the individual. So what's spiritual to him, that's what makes him spiritual. And when people work with him in our classes, in readings, or just meet him on the street, they can see that he is a caring spiritual being. However, he's not woo-woo like me. He's not into rituals and all this witchy shit, but what I love about him is he doesn't judge me for it. And he opens his mind to experiencing magic. And he's like, hey, can you do that for me? He's open to, not having all the answers. And I think that's a huge part of this spiritual path. This is a lifestyle. This is my work, my path to becoming a master at the mystic arts, at herbalism. And it wasn't until I found herbalism that I realized my identity within magic and the true connection I have with plants and Mother Nature is a huge part of my magical expression. And I have to educate people on plants, on magic, on their own magic, on the fact that we are made of the same elements as this planet. And we have to process and nurture and nourish every aspect of ourselves in order to feel divinely inspired and connected and rooted in this meat suit, which, is a miracle in itself. We are walking miracles. And when you truly connect to the fact that there is no proof in how we came to be, there are so many different stories, there are so many different theories, but the realization that it's all a simulation, I don't necessarily believe in that, because I want to use what is applicable in the moment. And I don't necessarily need to have answers to everything. As a matter of fact, unless we're talking about something that I need to teach or something that I need to share, I think that mystery is a beautiful thing. But one of the things I'm grateful for to science is that we can correlate the mystical magic and the truth that yogis have been telling us about our existence for thousands of years to what we can now understand more precisely and identify more precisely within science. Our organ systems, our anatomy and physiology, and how everything works. We have a scientific understanding of that. But at the same time, it can be too much for people, and it's unnecessary. What we need to understand is, just like this planet, we are a natural universe, ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, and we are needing to experience homeostasis, balance. So balance is struck individually. Your sense of balance could throw me off balance and vice versa. So that's also an expression of our magic. And when we understand that we are creating our reality and our thoughts and our feelings are what's creating our physical states as well, and our experience within our environment and our relationships and the lessons that we learn in this life, then we can tap into, how do I feel better? How, I have clients and students who will come to me and say, until I started working with you, or until I heard you say this, it didn't click. And all I'm doing is giving information and connecting to their energy and teaching them that my magic is not so special. Okay. My magic is simply a reflection of me and my authenticity. But, I do this thing called spiritual awakening, where I introduce people to their guides and I create a trance state for them so that they have a deep immersive experience while being completely cognizant and clear focused on what happens. And there's this emotional release that always occurs. And after, they're like, that was amazing. You're amazing. And I'm sharing this with you because I think it's important that people know I'm not amazing. Every human being is amazing, and it's whether or not we're using our individual magic and aligning with our purpose that will share that magic, that will help people be receptive to our magic and honor our magic. So for me, by calling myself a witch, it was more of a character. I love witches. Like, I'm watching Agatha All Along right now, and I'm just like, in circle, I asked everybody, are you guys watching this? And no one's watching it, but it's on people's watch list. If you're watching Agatha All Along, please talk to me about it in the comments and tell me what you love. I love everything about it. I love that it's a female-centric show that has deep-rooted truth in esoteric practices. Some of the tarot stuff is a little bit like, but I love that they really tried in the construction of this show to honor the practice of witchcraft. And as someone who studied it for so long, I'm just loving this show. And I love that they're not creating true villains. They're creating people who have become villains based on the environment that they were raised in, because our subconscious programming and our identity gets rooted from age 0 in the womb to age 7. So 7, which is a miraculous number, I talk about that in my psychic development class. We understand that we have neural pathways and belief systems that are pretty much set. However, as a magical, thriving spiritual being, you can align with new truths that actually nourish your soul. Instead of thinking, I'm a piece of, no one loves me, no one likes me, no one cares about what I have to say. What is that serving? If it's not serving your highest good, if it's not serving your purpose, then it's not serving you, and you need to quit that. You need to stop with the stinking thinking, as my mother would say. That's a program talk, because she was in Al-Anon for years and years. And that's really where I started learning about feelings and talking about feelings. And that was at age 6. I went to Alatot, which was babysitting right next to her Al-Anon meeting. But there was a gentleman named Bob Ruffner, hero, who, instead of letting us play and just, babysitting us, he was also a member of Al-Anon. So he was like, well, let's sit around and talk about our families, because your mom's codependent next door. Your mom or dad is a codependent, so there's got to be an alcoholic. So let's talk about our feelings. And I was like, what's that? I want to talk about my feelings. And that started me with acting, and that started me with expressing my feelings. But it was someone else's feelings. It was someone else's experience that I felt more comfortable expressing. Again, that's kind of where the witchy identity came from, was expression of this character, Ashley, who was a witch, who was, playful and more charactery and not necessarily authentic to me. However, if you identify as a witch, that's no problem. Call yourself whatever you want. You're not hurting anybody. But for me, I felt like I realized that I had created this construct, and instead of really getting into who I am and what my magical expression is. And my magical expression is awakening magic in other people, is lovingly and generously serving other people this platter of truth, which once in front of them and once experienced, they feel and connect to their own magic. And then they're like, life is so much better now because I don't have anyone else to blame, because I know I'm creating this reality. I'm creating the perspective of being a victim or being a victor. And it's so much better to be a victor. And you can be a victor over a situation where you're feeling like a victim. We still have an imbalance of energies in this world, and we have to balance ourselves out amongst it. But that's where we create boundaries around our energy, and that's what we're teaching. And putting on that character was, my voice would change. I had to put on like lots of makeup. I would want to curl my hair, and it wasn't real. And becoming a mother was very humbling because I realized less is more for me right now. And then of course there are times when I want to be extra, and I'm going to be extra, but I don't need to use an identity as an excuse for me to be extra. That's just Ashley. That's just me. That's just my energy. Rhyme. But finding herbalism is what really changed my awareness of my magic and my purpose. And it came through a lot of loss and trauma and struggle, which, the healing path, becoming a healer, usually comes from having to heal yourself or not being able to heal others. My mother and my sister are two people who were the most important in my life. I lost both of them. One to unaliving herself because her mental health was enshrined within the pharmaceutical industry, and it just got worse and worse and worse until they had her on lithium, and that's when she just couldn't connect to any type of magic, couldn't connect to any aspect of herself that honored her authenticity or honored her experience. And she shrouded herself and enclosed herself in this belief that no one cared. And you should have seen how many people showed up to her memorial service. I created a wake for her, which I thought would be more fun. I thought, why should we be sad and depressed? And, obviously we were still sad, but Courtney loved red Solo cups and steak. And I was like, let's have a barbecue. Let's all tell stories about her. At this time, I didn't know that she had unalived herself. My mother told me that her heart just stopped and that she had an enlarged heart. It wasn't until after my mother died, like 2 weeks later, not that long after my mother passed, I needed to prove that my sister was no longer alive, and so I could sell my mother's house. And they sent over the autopsy report, and that's when I learned that she took an overdose. And when somebody has been on pharmaceuticals for as long as she had been, I knew. And what they were saying was a gentle way of saying she unalived herself. And that continues to be one of the reasons why I have to do this work, because I have to teach people that they are not alone, that they are not powerless. Whew, okay, let's let it go. Let's let it all happen. That no one is without support. And that's really one of the things I love about Circle and our work is you come to this realization that you need help, that you need guidance, and we support these people. And I'm not saying everyone should come to us. I'm saying if you're pulled to work with us, because we are working on ourselves. All that we teach, we apply in our own lives. And there's a part of me that wishes I knew then what I know now. However, had I saved her and had I saved my mother, I know I wouldn't be here. I know I wouldn't be an herbalist, because I thought I was an actress and a singer all those years. I thought that's who I was. But although it's something that I can do and I love doing, it does not align me with the joy and the fulfillment that helping people actualize and utilize their power does. And in terms of my mother, I know that she lied to protect me and everyone else. She told no one. So that's what killed her was, the cancer kept coming back, and I knew that there was pain there that she didn't want to share with me, but I had no clue that that lie was corroding her spirit. And that's what led to her deterioration, is a fragmented soul. A piece of her soul was gone to her in losing my sister and blaming herself and never being able to talk to me about it. I think back to the times that she cried about my sister, and I tried to get her to talk to me about it. And the emotion that came through her was just so much. It was just so much. And I knew it wasn't a show. I knew there was something there, but I didn't think, Mom, what are you not telling me? Because I wasn't tuned into my intuition. I wasn't tuned into my psychic gifts. Again, what I know now could have saved her. I could have released that burden from her. But instead of saving her, and instead of saving my sister, I can help people save themselves. Because yes, I am a healer, but I simply teach people that they have just as much power to heal themselves as anyone else. No one can heal you but you. I started as what's the kind of herbalism? Sorry, I got so emotional now. I can't remember words. I started as a clinical herbalist, and it was rooted in science and proof and all that. And I would see clients getting better. And then if they had some real trauma deeply rooted, there was a reverting back to old patterns. And then we would start the protocol again and they would feel better. But I wasn't getting the true healing and the sustainable healing that I wanted in these people's lives. So, and I was simultaneously doing my tarot on the side, and I realized I have to unite the spirit. I have to unite the spirit with the science. That's what's missing in the modern age. And so that's my work, and becoming that healer and that person is far more fulfilling and far more authentic than my witchy self that I was, which was more of a character. And if you identify as a witch, comment down below and be like, witch and proud, because you should be. But this is simply about my journey and me planting a seed in you that there could be more. There could be more. You could be thinking a bit smaller in terms of your magic. And I also want to encourage anybody who's practicing magic to create their own ritual, to understand that magic has to be individually expressed. And when I teach herbalism, I am teaching the spiritual and the metaphysical aspects of plants, because that's where the magic happens, baby. That's what I'm talking about. And I just did a podcast on cacao, which is another magical plant that if you have accessed your emotions and you're aware, if you have that image of self and you've started to realize, I deserve good things, I'm a good person, and you can say these things without feeling major resistance, then cacao could be great for you. But also, if you just resonate with something that could open your heart and help you connect to others, cacao could be great for you. That podcast I'll link down below. But I did not expect to talk about my mother and sister, but I love these podcasts because, I just have an outline of points and then it just authentically comes out. And if you've experienced great loss, if you've experienced great trauma and pain, you need to understand that it does not absolve the people that did something to you or the experiences that you had. That's not what this is about. However, your pain can be your power. So if you can take some inspiration from me and start to realize that you are not alone, you can reach out to people. Within Circle, we have a supportive community, and there was somebody who just posted that they were feeling sick and run down, and there's days when people aren't going to be 100%, and that's okay. We are human beings, and you have to allow yourself to be human, and that's what we do in our community. while simultaneously respecting each other. We don't put up with negativity or criticism because we get that enough from ourselves. And thankfully, we haven't had to police that because the people who gravitate towards us are looking for support and looking to support. So that's why we've created Mystic Circle, our school, our community that we are just so grateful for. I love having a place where if I want to do a heart chakra meditation and healing, because I love doing guided meditations for our community, and I just did a guided meditation and full moon ritual in our community, and everyone was like, "I want more, I want more," and I was like, "Yes." Because this is my magic. What's your magic? Comment down below, share it with us. I'm so excited to help the world and as many people that are ready to awaken to their own magic, how to direct their power, how to align with their power and purpose and become a happier, thriving being. Because if we're not thriving, we cannot continue just surviving. Thank you so much for joining me once again on the Mystic Rebels podcast. My name is Ashley. I wish you all the best, and don't forget to vibe higher.